Hi, everyone. I'm Mark Glicini, and I have my co-host here with me, Dr. Rob Gilbert. I will introduce him in more depth in just a few more minutes. I'll give everybody a chance to log on. Very excited for our conversation today. Hope everybody's doing well. Coach Gelston's number one rule: be at the right place at the right time and do the right thing. This is the right place and the right time, right?
That's right. And we have to do the right thing.
Easier said than done.
Well, while we're waiting, let me tell you a story. Right now I'm in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and right up the street from where I live is Glenridge High School. And the old wrestling coach at Glenridge High School was Angelo Corbo, and he told me this story. So this is a true story, that he had a wrestler named Tom Maypoffer. And Tom Maypoffer was not that good a wrestler. He was not even average, but he loved wrestling. And he wrestled freshman year, sophomore year, junior year. He never, ever had a winning record. So going into his senior year, he thought he'd have a winning record. It was going to be a really good year. Well, he played football for the first time at the beginning of the school year, and he got hurt. Now, he didn't get so hurt that he needed an operation. He got so hurt that the school doctor wouldn't okay him for wrestling. So he's devastated. He went to the coach, and the coach said, you know, Tommy, I know you can't wrestle. I could make you the manager of the team. Well, Tommy didn't want that. He liked wrestling so much, if he couldn't wrestle, it would be hard to be around the team. So he went out for the senior play, and he got the lead in Guys and Dolls. He didn't get the lead because he was a good actor. He got the lead because so few guys went out for the senior play. And so it's opening night of Guys and Dolls at Glenridge High School, and the girl that had the lead in Guys and Dolls, her mom was a stage mom. You know, she thought that her daughter was going to be the next Ethel Merman, the next Barbara Streisand. She's going to be the next superstar. So she made sure there was a New York theatrical agent at the opening of Guys and Dolls at Glenridge High School. Well, the agent was there, and he saw the daughter, totally unimpressed. But there was something about Tom Maypoffer. So after the show, he gave Tom Maypoffer his card. He said, I want you to keep in touch with me. I know the people I want you to I want you to study with. I mean, I think you have potential. So because of that wrestling injury, or the football injury, he couldn't wrestle, and he got into acting. And his whole life changed. As a result of the football injury, the whole life changed. Now, isn't that a great story? No, it isn't. Because you don't know his middle name. His middle name is Tom Cruise Maypoffer. If Tom Cruise had not have had that football injury, he wouldn't have had the opportunity to not wrestle, and he wouldn't have had the opportunity to go out for the senior play. So the reason Mark and I want to start with that story is we're in pandemic times, and sometimes the worst thing that happens could be the best thing that could happen. Mark, want to talk about what we talked about last night in class about crisis?
Sure. And I've actually had the pleasure of going over in Japan 2 times. And one of the words there is kanji. And it's another word for here in America known as crisis. It's made up of 2 symbols, danger and opportunity. And isn't that something? that the word crisis has a positive and negative symbol in the Chinese language. Well, we want to focus on the opportunity today. And the story that Doc just talked about is all about, are you going to get better or are you going to get bitter, especially during injury or severe loss? It's interesting that he brought up a Tom Cruise story about Glenridge High School. Well, I went to Mahwah High School in North Jersey. That's where I'm originally from. And my last game ever was against Glenridge, and they beat us in the rain. Very sad time. And so we're going to start off by talking about loss. My co-host is Dr. Rob Gilbert, in my opinion, the top expert in applied sports psychology in the world. He's my great friend and mentor. And Doc, why don't you start us off by talking about the power of this single idea? What is that all about?
Well, why don't we start off talking about you, okay? So Mark Glicini took a class with me 2 years ago, and now he's teaching the class with me. He's a brilliant guy, and he might be the most well-conditioned professional athlete in the world. And we could talk a lot about that. He works out like nobody works out, but he's a professional lacrosse player. And in all the professional leagues, they have all these awards, you know, the Cy Young Award, the Most Improved Award. He won what I think is the most important award. And I think only professional lacrosse gives this award. He won the Best Teammate Award. Imagine out of 150 or so players that you are the best teammate. And we'll talk more about that. So it's an absolute honor to be here today to share the space with Mark. And let's talk about what we hope you get out of this session today. We have 1 hour together. And what Mark and I hope, we hope you get one idea, one big idea. One idea you go, wow, that's what I need to hear. So that's what it takes to change your life. 50 ideas aren't going to change your life if you just get one idea. So just start looking for the idea. And here's how you look for the idea. I want you to do something with me right now. Look around wherever you are right now, unless you're driving. Don't do this if you're driving, but look around wherever you are right now. And look for everything that's red. Look for everything that's red. Look for everything that's red. Look for everything that's red, 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 even pink. Dark red, light red. Okay, now close your eyes and think of something that was green that you saw. Now, having done this for 40 years in class, I would just assume that you had trouble thinking of something green when you're looking for red. So right now, what I want you to focus on, I don't want you to focus on red. I want you to focus on, okay, one idea. I'm going to get one idea today. I'm going to get one idea today that's going to change my life. Just focus on that. And all of a sudden, a bell's going to go off in your mind. You know, all of a sudden, you're going to get this feeling like, that's it. And that's where we start, the power of the single idea. Okay, Mark?
Well, the first idea that I want to bring about, and it might be not the one that you take home, but it's sure enough the most important thing. And thank you for that introduction, Doc. It is true that I won Teammate of the Year award. It's very humbling, and it's probably what I'm most proud of myself throughout all the awards I've ever won, because it was voted on by my teammates, coaches, and everybody throughout the Premier Lacrosse League. But it didn't start there. And this whole webinar that was put together by Dr. Glicini, which I'm very happy to be here, and thank you so much for having us. What I want to start off is talking about loss. And the reason why loss is so important is because a setback is a setup for a comeback. And when I was 18 years old, I was at Mahwah High School, as I talked about earlier. And it was the first time I experienced coming off of a breakout season. I won North Jersey Player of the Year. I set the point record. And then in my senior year, I was expected and on the trajectory to have an even better year. And halfway through the season, I got a stress fracture in my L2 and my L4, my lower spine. It was the first time I had my identity crisis. And there's a book written by James Clear called Atomic Habits, in which he talks about individuals are more likely to change their lives every single time that they have an identity crisis. And I'm sure I'm not the only person in this webinar right now who's either having an identity crisis now or had one in the past. When you start thinking to yourself, who are you?
Basically, you broke your back, correct?
That's correct.
L2, L4, that means, you know, you want to get an anatomical chart. You broke your back.
And staying with that, I had a hard cast from my pecs to my tailbone. And it became something where I had to walk around with great posture. I was sleeping on the floor. I'm in this thing for 24/7. And it's the first time I started really caring about my mental health. Now, I titled this, when Dr. Glicini asked me what I would title my webinar, I said, competing with yesterday's me, the inner journey to excellence. And the reason why I chose those words specifically is because it's not about being better than those around you. And I've learned that from 18 years all the way to the professional ranks. Now I play professional lacrosse. I'm heading into my 5th year, but I'm also a certified nutritionist, certified fitness trainer, and mental performance coach. All thanks to Dr. Rob Gilbert and my family and friends for supporting me on this track. Now, what I talk about most is the power of momentum. The power of momentum is the most powerful thing that exists today. And what I mean by that is if you are able to start off with the first stair and continue to find out how to do things, because life is a strategy game, and continue to take action in some way, somehow against your prior self, momentum takes over and you go from a place of discipline, which is I have to or I got to do something, and you find desire along the way, which is I get to and I want to. So Doc, what do you think it takes to go from the discipline to desire? How do you get there? What takes you across that magical bridge?
Well, this is, and if you've ever been in a 12-step group, if you've ever been a committed athlete, that you know that all of a sudden, nobody knows if it's going to happen in a day, a week, or month, or a year, but it will definitely happen. All of a sudden, what seems so difficult became something that you're not avoiding. It's something you're going towards, not away from. And all you have to do is you just have to be willing. You hear what I said? You just have to be willing. And just erase what I said, you don't have to be willing. If you want to be average, be willing. Mark and I are in our own little army, and we're at war against average. You can't be willing, you have to be eager. There's a big difference between willing and eager. As I mentioned, Mark and I are currently teaching a graduate class in applied sports psychology at Montclair State University in New Jersey. And by the time you get to graduate school, you're willing to do the assignments, you're willing to show up to class, you're willing, but is everybody eager? You could even watch a pro basketball game and notice who's willing and notice who's eager. There are a lot of willings, there aren't too many eagers. So that's what will really help you get from discipline to desire, is the eagerness. I'm eager to lose weight. I'm eager to gain strength. I'm eager to lower my 10K time. I'm eager to get my advanced degree. Now, you might be saying, well, that's hard to do. As far as I'm concerned, the 3 most powerful words in sports psychology are the words act as if. So if you're not eager, act as if you're eager. You could act as if, you could make believe, you could pretend, you could do this. Unfortunately, the person I'm going to tell a story about right now passed away a couple of years ago. He was one of America's greatest long distance runners. His name was Tom Fleming. And he won the New York City Marathon twice. And many years ago, he came to my class to give a talk, and he talked about when he was a world-class runner, he ran between 135 and 150 miles a week. 135 to 150 miles a week. And one of my students said, did you always feel like running? And he said, most days I didn't feel like running until I started running. Most days you're not going to feel eager until you start being eager. So I know one thing about Mark, that when he works out, I mean, you're always energized when you work out, right?
I would say it's taken a while to get there, and it's a really good point that you bring up in the fact that if you were to ask many professional athletes, take a survey, most would say that they enjoy working out. If you were to ask them if they enjoy working out every single day, you might get a different response. And what Doc is touching upon, eager versus willing, is it's the start that stops most people. One of the things that I've learned from Doc that's been really helpful for me in getting going and started it, even in my micro missions, which is daily, right? Forget about the telescope. Let's focus on the microscope. Let's own this day, right? If we can find a way to be intentional in this day, how do we do that? Well, the first strategy that he's taught me in doing that is it's much easier to act your way into a different way of thinking than it is to think your way into a different way of acting. Now, what does that mean, right? Actions change our attitude, movements change our mood, and motions change our emotions, right? And there is physiology, things that happen within our body every single time we get going. And it goes right in hand with Martin Luther King's quote about if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. Keep moving forward. It has everything to do with getting going, right? So all we want this to be in this next hour here is all about action provoking. It's not enough for us to have this conversation and for you to leave and say, oh, that was thought provoking. We want to get you up. We want to get you moving, and we want to get you motivated to use action to change your way of thinking rather than thinking as your way of change your actions. Doc, I would like you to go off a little bit about Milt Campbell. Will you tell us a little bit about Milt Campbell?
Okay. So how do you, and I love that stuff. I never heard you say that before. Why don't you just go a little, the microscopes and the telescopes?
Sure. You want me to go further on that?
Yeah.
Sure. So I think life is a strategy game, right? It's not about natural talent or God-given ability, right? If it is, it's a very small percentage, right? Carol Dweck's growth versus fixed mindset. And we're all vulnerable to fall into a fixed mindset. And, oh, that person's doing exceptional things because they're naturally talented at that, or because they're gifted at that. And that's coming from a place of a fixed mindset. Now, the growth mindset can change your world. Why can it change your world? Because all you have to do is that slight shift in perspective, slight shift, and say, no, I have the power to change things. Whether it's physiological adaptations through exercise, whether it's neuroplasticity through mental training, it doesn't matter, but the only constant in life is change. So Doc asked me about my microscope versus my telescope, right? And this is taken from Dr. Nick Molinaro, who will be on the very next webinar after this, is outcome goals, performance goals, and then process goals. Your outcome goals, to me, a word that I like to use is my North Star, right? And some people, one of my good friends who's one of the best lacrosse players I've ever played with, and he's at Yale Medical School right now on a full ride, Ben Reeves. He writes his outcome goals, those North Stars, and he has them on a sticky note on his computer so he sees them all the time. These are your 3 to 5 year plan of who you want to be down the road. That's your telescope, right? That never changes, right? And when things get stormy, like we are right now in a pandemic, and we have every reason to quit or be stagnant, we look at our outcome goal, and that keeps us on that path because of why. Now back the truck up, and we start with our microscope. And those, I like to use the word micro mission. What is our mission right now? How can we own this day? One of the most amazing books I've ever come across was Own the Day, Own Your Life by Aubrey Marcus. Own the Day, Own Your Life by Aubrey Marcus. And what does he talk about? Strategies all throughout your life, right? And every single person on this webinar knows their peak energy state, right? Oh, I'm a morning person. I'm a night owl. I'm best in the afternoon. Well, you want to capitalize on those peak energy states. That's taken from Josh Waitzkins, who wrote one of the best books I've ever read, The Art of Learning. Every task that you undertake has a tactical side to it and a psychological side to it. Which one are we focusing on today? The psychological side of it. And saying that if you can shift your mindset and make little tiny adjustments in your day, you can win the day, win the week, and then month. And where I'll wrap up that is I'll say, in Aubrey Marcus's book, Own the Day, Own Your Life, strategies that he uses as micro missions right when he wakes up that I've added to my day is 32 ounces of water, a slight movement, whether that's a walk around the house, some form of exercise, and then the third and final is find the sun, right? Don't use electronics, don't use the lights in your house, use natural light. Use those 3 micro strategies and you will start owning the day. And what does that provide you with? I come back to it again, momentum. If you have momentum in your life and you use it in a positive, you can go from a baby wave to an absolute tsunami. We drastically overestimate what we can do in a day. We drastically underestimate what we can do in a week, month, or year. So use those micro strategies right in the morning, 32 ounces of water, get sweating in some capacity or moving, and then go find the sun. And then that momentum takes over and answers Doc's question in the fact that maybe you're not going to always feel like you want to do something, but if you can set up the right triggers and strategies, your commitment will be greater than your feelings.
We got to give you the big picture of everything we're talking about and make this clearer. Here's the thing, if this is Roman numeral 1 in the outline for our lecture, you have all the ability, all you're lacking is a strategy. You have all the ability, all you're lacking is a strategy. That means you have a great memory. It might not be a well-trained memory, but you have a great memory. You just don't have the memory techniques. Well, I'm anxious. I'm an anxious person. No, you're not. You're a person that hasn't learned the strategies for relaxing. Oh, I'm an insomniac. No, you're not. You're just a person that hasn't learned how to fall asleep. There are strategies for everything. So what Mark and I like to do is, you probably don't believe what we'll say, but you will believe what you do. So we're going to give you a little memory test and to see if strategies make a difference. So I'm going to read 19 words to you, and we're going to do this rather quickly. So here are the words: the Statue of Liberty, torch, book, big fat man, electric power drill, bar of soap, purple pennies, black limousine, Mickey Mouse, white cowboy hat, brown vest, black boots, Lady Gaga, $10,000 shark skin suit, a letter, a German Shepherd, a bar of Hershey's milk chocolate, a mountain lion, and a cherry. So let me read it again quickly. Statue of Liberty, torch, book, big fat man, electric power drill, bar of soap, purple pennies, black limousine, Mickey Mouse, white cowboy hat, brown vest, black boots, Lady Gaga, $10,000 shark skin suit, a letter, German Shepherd, bar of soap, bar of Hershey's milk chocolate, mountain lion, cherry tree. Now, having done this in class so many times, if you got 9 of them, you're well above, you're a superstar. Most people get 3 or 4 or 5, and they usually get the first couple and the last couple. But what we're trying to sell you, not just tell you, is now we're going to give you a strategy for remembering them. So just close your eyes, and I'm going to tell you a story. And why am I going to tell you a story? Facts fade, stories stick. I just gave you facts. Statue of Liberty, torch, book, just facts. Now, facts fade, stories stick. You'll remember them much better once we put them into the context of a story. So the Statue of Liberty has a torch in one hand and a book in the other hand. On top of the Statue of Liberty is a big fat man. In his right hand is an electric power drill, and in his left hand is a bar of soap. He drills into the bar of soap, and out of the soap comes tumbling purple pennies. The pennies fall down on a long black limousine, and the limousine is being driven by Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse is wearing a white cowboy hat, a brown vest, and black boots. Sitting next to Mickey is, you tell me. That's right, Lady Gaga. She is wearing a skin-tight $10,000 shark skin suit, and in her lap is a letter that she has just written to her mother. In the back seat of the car is a German Shepherd who's eating his favorite food, a bar of Hershey's milk chocolate. All of a sudden, a mountain lion runs onto the road. Mickey jams on the brakes, and the mountain lion jumps into the back seat of the car and rips a bar of chocolate out of the German Shepherd's mouth. And the mountain lion runs out the window again and runs up a cherry tree that falls into the Statue of Liberty. So I'm just going to read some and see if you could figure out the next part of the story. The Statue of Liberty has what in one hand? A torch. And what in the other hand? A book. On top of the Statue of Liberty is who? A big fat man. In his right hand is a electric power drill. In his left hand is a bar of soap. He drills into the bar of soap, and what comes tumbling out? I bet everybody knows what comes tumbling out. Purple pennies. And what do they fall down on? A black limousine, and I'll bet you money you know who's driving the black limousine. Mickey Mouse. Okay? So Mickey Mouse is wearing, what's on his head? What color is that cowboy hat? That's right, a white cowboy hat. What color is his vest? Brown. And what color are his boots? Well, that's easy, black. Sitting next to Mickey is who? Chuck, do you know who it is? I bet you do. Lady Gaga. And she's wearing a $10,000 shark skin suit. So, Sephora, what is in Lady Gaga's lap? A letter. And Nuno, what is in the backseat of the car, Nuno?
German Shepherd.
German Shepherd, okay. The German Shepherd is eating what, Julian? A bar of Hershey's milk chocolate. Who jumps into the back seat, Matilda? A mountain lion. He takes out the bar of milk chocolate, runs up a cherry tree that smashes into the Statue of Liberty. Now, we did that 10 times faster than you do it in class, but I bet from the first time to the second time, you had a dramatic improvement. once you start, see, life is not a talent game. Life is a strategy game. And if we just say that for the rest of the session, life is not a talent game, life is just strategy. If we just say that for the rest of the session, we're doing a great job, because this is one of the biggest misconceptions. We have people that say, oh, I'm dumb and stupid, like little kids. Oh, I'm dumb and stupid. No, you're not. You haven't learned how to study. You haven't learned how to learn. Just amazing. Mark has given you a few books. Let me tell you, the next book you buy, and if this isn't a life-changing book, I'll pay for it, okay? Can we see it, Mark, all right?
Breathe, right.
Yeah. Mark and I had the author, James Nestor, come to our class and speak the other night. Here's your assignment for the weekend. Go on YouTube and put in James Nestor and put anything with breathing, read everything. If you ever listen to Fresh Air with Terry Gross, great interview. This is what we're talking about. Everybody breathes. We don't have the strategies for breathing. There are strategies breathing that will make you healthier and make you live longer. And they're right in this book. And of course, you know, a lot of us are physical education majors, and we know all about the Krebs cycle. We all know about glycolysis. We surely know about the mitochondria, but nobody ever teaches us how to breathe. This is so essential, so essential. Okay, Mark.
Doc, to drive home your point about training your memory, will you explain what ACME is, and I'll put it into the group chat so everybody sees it?
How do I get it to the group chat? Oh, there it is.
There it is on the side.
Okay, so one of the things that will help you remember anything better is ACME, A-C-M-E. If you make stories out of something, and you have action in the story. Action works better than passive. You put color in the story. Colorful works better than black and white. You put me, not me, but you in the story, and you exaggerate it. And you're going to remember it better. So all we're going to talk about for the rest of this, everything falls under, we are just assuming you have the ability. You do have the ability. You are not lacking ability. There is musical ability, creativity, creative ability, athletic ability, whatever you want, you have it. But here's the secret, you might be blocking it. Every single one of us, no matter how sick we are, we have healing potential inside our body. And if you want to learn more about this, read Anatomy of an Illness by Norman Cousins. So let me show you something that might be distressing for some of you. So you might want to look away because I'm just trying to do something memorable. So with my students, I'm trying to constantly, everything I teach is you have the ability and all you're lacking is a strategy. So I met a guy who does sideshow stuff, if you know what sideshow stuff is. And he did this once. You see this? This is an ice pick. It's a real ice pick. Okay. So he did this trick with an ice pick. And I know I could do what he did if I know his strategy. So he lived in New York City and I lived in New Jersey. And I emailed him about 47 times. And he finally agreed to meet with me. And in 3 hours, he taught me how to see what you're doing. Now, what I'm doing is disgusting. But I'm just trying to prove that you could do what anybody else could do if you discover their strategies. David Copperfield isn't a better magician than you. He knows better magic strategies than you. So watch this. So you agree this is real? Now, I just do that to prove that you could do the most disgusting, the most amazing, the most incredible things if you learn the strategies. So I found the guy that knew the strategies, and I've done this hundreds of times in my life with magic tricks, with memory exercises, strength feats. It all comes down to strategy. And this is what Mark does. A lot of athletes hire him to teach them peak performance strategies. But unlike most people, Mark doesn't just work with them physically, he works with them physically, mentally, and emotionally. He's not just a personal trainer in terms of skill development and strength and speed and endurance. He's everything. He's a total trainer. And so what strategies from years and years of training people let's talk about high school kids. What are the strategies that they're lacking if they want to become a superstar athlete?
Yeah, and I would say that's a great question. The fact that I think the younger athletes, all they want is confidence. That's a word that comes up all the time. How do I get more confident? And then as you get to the college and the high school and the world rank, what you want is consistency, right? So those are the two words that we're always searching for. How do we develop confidence and how do we develop consistency, right? And the first one is a little bit more esoteric, right? Because your confidence deals with a feeling, right? So I want to take us away from let's fake it till I make it and let's act it until we become it, right? So I was talking about how it's very much easier to act your way into a certain way of thinking. Well, where we want to start there is the fact that we take ourselves and we focus on not our feelings, not our emotions. We are not those things. My character coach at San Diego, for the San Diego Seals, a national lacrosse team that I play for, says there's 5 things going on in our mind at all times, right? And those are emotions, feelings, physiology, thoughts, and performance. And we cannot control our feelings and emotions, right? With this pandemic going on, right? There's many different things that can have our volatility of emotions and feelings going every which direction. But what does our thought life look like? What is our physiology and performance? And how do we change those into the way that we want? Well, we focus on acting until we become it rather than fake it till we make it, right? Because faking it till you make it doesn't necessarily mean we will perform, especially when the pressure is on. So whenever I am training a younger athlete, I talk to them about these 3 I's: importance, intention, and intensity. Importance, intention, and intensity, right? And why do those 3 things matter? Well, there's a big difference between special and important, right? Marriage, a celebration, a birthday party, those are special, right? Your training should be important. And it doesn't just go for the student athlete or an athlete in general. This goes transferable right into the business world, right? Or whatever your craft is, even if it's being a great parent, right? There's something important about it, not necessarily special. And when you start making it special, that's like trying to go somewhere you've never been. And we want training to be the same thing as the last 30 seconds of a high pressure situation in game. So that's the first reason why when we ever go exercise, whenever we go train, whenever we throw on the lens of mental training, all that means is success leaves clues, right? What mental training means to me is success leaves clues. How can I be my best when it means the most? How to be intense without being tense. Isn't that a cool idea, right? To be intense without being tense. And for me as a lacrosse player, what that means is not gripping the stick too tight, right? I still remember my first run. I went to Yale for 4 years, and my first run at Yale, I ran back, come out of the box, steaming hot, very intense, but gripping the stick too tight, perfect pass to me, and the ball bounces all the way back where it came from because I was too tense. And what I was doing, I was thinking about what could happen and what has happened in the past. Now, stress lives in the past and anxiety lives in the future. Reaching high performance is all about being here and now. So how do we do that? We come back to the other 2 I's, and that's being intentional and working out with intensity. Everything comes down to energy. Everything comes down to energy. Doc Gilbert is the best teacher I've ever been around because of his capability of inspiring before he gives information. He focuses on inspiration rather than information. And if you want to deliver home just a small little nugget like we want to leave you with today, we have to inspire you first. Why do you think he's putting a drill up his nose, right? So let's start talking about strategies that are important and applicable.
Nice pick, Mark. Come on.
Nice pick, okay.
I haven't gone to the area drills yet. I'm working on drills.
I came from the electric drill from the Big Fat Man in the earlier story.
Some people do a drill, by the way.
So let's start talking about strategies that are applicable to you. What can we do with intensity, intention, and importance? Well, I talked about it last week, and I want to bring it back because it's so important. When I heard about this from Robin Sharma's mastery session, I took it home. And what an important time to be thinking about these 4 strategies to improve self-love. The first one is honor your special. That means whatever makes you most happy, right? Whether that's getting a haircut, whether that's exercising, whether that's reading a book, if you're more introverted and want to get away, or if you're an extrovert, making sure you get on a Zoom session, honor your special so you can recharge in your way. right? That's the first one. And that's yours. Make it yours, right? Because everybody's different. Everybody has a different definition of success, and things make, we have a different things that make us happy. So just not only find it, go do it. Honor your special. The second one is do something difficult daily, right? And that's different for everybody again, right? And when I was talking to Mental Health America just the other day, one of the most important things that they brought up is maybe sometimes we're not always in the great amount of confidence, like I talked about with the high school athlete, that we want to be in. So maybe we have to do a few easier tasks to build our confidence, right? To build our confidence to take on that one difficult task. But the reason why doing one difficult task per day is important is because it increases your self-respect. And on the back end of increasing your self-respect, you increase your self-love. Third, go to the woods. Go to the woods or go to the water, right? Dr. Gilbert just brought up a beautiful book by James Nestor on how important breathing is. And I think we forget about our breath because we just expect it to happen, right? We can go weeks without food, days without water, but we can only go seconds without our breath. Let's pay attention to our breath by going to the woods, go to the water, become mindful and aware of what we need, and then come back, right? Every great individual that's added to society has gone to the woods or gone to the water, became mindful and aware, and brought back something that was not only thought-provoking, but action-provoking. Fourth and final is what we're trying to do today, and help others. Help others. That's a gratitude letter to somebody that's helped you out. That is saying something kind on a social media platform. That's reaching out via any way of communication, right? Because there's a way to build trust, and the way you do that is through honest and effective communication. So those are 4 strategies that we can get started right now, right? Honor your special, right? Do something difficult daily. Help others and go to the woods. Go ahead, money man.
Mark and I give out a lot of money in our class. So imagine you're in my class, okay? Are you ready, Alexis? Can you speak to us? So first day of class, first moment of class, I get in front of the class and I take a $100 bill and I put it in the air. Are you going to speak to me, Alexis? And are you there? And I say, here's exactly what I do. Before I do anything in the class, I put the $100 bill in the air and I say, who wants this $100 bill? And what do you think everybody does? They put their hand in the air. And then I say, who really wants this $100 bill? And what do you think they do? They put their hand a little higher. And they say, who really, really, really wants this $100 bill? And what do you think they do? They put their hand a little higher. I'll give them another minute. Once in a while, somebody actually gets out of their chair and takes some money from me. But most of the times they don't. So this is the most important strategy. Your thoughts determine what you want. Your actions determine what you get. Your thoughts, see, the problem with this seminar, these 3 days and last week, it's fabulous, but they're all thoughts. If you don't put these thoughts into action, K minus A equals 0. Knowledge minus action equals nothing. Knowledge minus action equals nothing. So let me give you the other reason I still have this $100 bill, because nobody ever gets it. So I have one of these things, okay? And I have my $100 bill, and I say, who wants to earn a $100 bill? Who wants the $100 bill? And I say, okay, take this combination lock. And between now and the end of class, which is an hour and 15 minutes, if you figure out how to open the lock within the next hour and 15 minutes, I'll give you the $100 bill. And they're in the back of the room going and going, and and guess what? They never, ever get it. You know why? Because there are 68,000 possible combinations. But you know what's never happened in 30 years? Nobody's ever said, Dr. Gilbert, could you tell me the combination? Why figure it on your own when somebody already knows it? Why figure out how to be a professional lacrosse player when somebody already knows what it takes? But once you know what it takes, are you willing to do what you have to do to get what you want? So let's just review. We're about halfway done. You have all the ability, and what Mark and I are trying to shock you into is the stunning revelation that, wait a second, whether you want to get a PhD, whether you want to win a Rhodes Scholarship, whether you want to be an All-American, whether you want to make the team, whether you want to be a pro coach, you're only a few strategies away. See, strategy plus strategy plus strategy plus strategy, then you have a system. Mark and I in class the other night, we might have had the most successful volleyball coach in the world, Maria Noland. She has a system. You just want to mention some of her system?
I mean, impeccable. First of all, she's the only volleyball coach in the state of New Jersey with over 1,000 wins. Right? She has 29 state championships and 10 tournament of championships. And she's one of the most modest and humble people you'll ever meet. Right? But there's simple little strategies that Doc and I bring her to class for to talk about with the students. And one of them is design her practices so that the players see improvement. What a simple idea, right? And I think the more and more obsession I've had with the mental game, the word simplex comes to mind. These ideas, they're so simple. The only complex part about them is implementing them on a consistent basis. And that's what Maria Nolan has done with Immaculate Heart Academy in New Jersey. She's been dominant for 43 years. 43 years. And it's these simple little strategies that she uses. And one of them goes hand in hand with the Japanese term Kaizen, which is a main goal over there when I was teaching the game twice to university students, is consistent and incremental improvement. That is what life's all about. Life is all about the self-discovery you find to give out love and help others positively. Right? Unless anybody else has a perfect definition, I would like to see yours in the chat as well, because everybody in this webinar could use that energy that you could bring to them. Going back to Maria Nolan, well, she designs her practices.
Mark, I just asked you a question. How old do you think she is?
How old do I think she is? 60s, yeah, 60, 65.
Yeah, 60. So she's been coaching probably over 40 years. Everybody get in the chat, okay? First one, somebody asked in the class, she said, how often do you think about volleyball?
Oh.
So type into the chat what her answer was. It was 3 words. Come on, somebody get in the chat. I know you know the answer to this. How often does the world's greatest volleyball coach think about volleyball? Well, you got the right answer. She said every single day. Now, let me just give you another quote. Kyle Yastrzemski, Hall of Fame baseball player for the Red Sox, he said, I think about baseball as soon as I wake up in the morning. I think about baseball all day. I dream about baseball all night. The only time I don't think about baseball is when, type in the answer, is when, what are the 3 words Kyle Yastrzemski said?
Oh, jeez.
While I'm playing baseball. So that's it. That's the difference between being a coach and being a performer. And sports psychology isn't about thinking positively, it's about not thinking. But we're getting a little away from our main thing. So let's have a little ad, okay? So here's what I want to sell you. One of my thrills, and I'm telling you the truth, and I'm not selling you anything, this is just a volunteer thing, is I love stories. So I'm going to give you my email address. My email address is sendmeastory@aol.com. If you're a teacher, if you're a coach, if you're a speaker, here's what I love. I love to get an email and you say, Dr. Gilbert, I'm going to an awards dinner in 30 minutes and I need a story to tell the group. Give me a story and I'll give you a story. Okay? So I am, from now on, I am your story guy. I am your story coach. Now, you know, if you want training, that's a whole nother thing. But one story, I am more than happy to do that. I've done stories for wakes. I've done stories for weddings. I've done stories for funerals. I've done stories for everything. I'm into stories. And of course, if you ever have a story for me, you know, if you have a story, a great story I never heard before, I'll give you $100. But trust me, I've heard them all. So Mark, tell about what you do professionally.
I play lacrosse. So I play lacrosse for the Premier Lacrosse League and the National Lacrosse League. Off the field, I'm a mental performance coach, certified nutritionist, and a certified trainer for high school athletes, high caliber, looking to play at the next level, college athletes, professional athletes, and Olympic hopefuls, right? And what we really focus on is the simple things. One of the tasks that I wanted to bring up is the start, stop, continue, right? And I want everybody to get a small piece of paper, right? And we're just going to do a short exercise I do all the time. And it's just start, stop, continue, right? And the hardest one is the stop, right? So we'll get to that one, right? But let's start with continue. What is something that you've been doing over the past couple of weeks to months that we've been in quarantine that you could continue to do and you will continue to see positive results, right? Because the results at the end of the day come from having the right strategy. So what strategy can you continue to do, right? Maybe if you are doing things from a health perspective, maybe your nutrition is going well, right? Maybe you're disciplined with your nutrition. Maybe you're getting enough sleep, right? I believe I heard it from the Manchester City soccer team that they look to get 35 1.5s per week. So 35 1.5 hours per week. And that's data that they collect, right? So that's 5 per night, right? So for 7 days, and that's what they're focused on, right? Getting enough sleep, because that really helps them. So I don't want to get off track, but write it down for you, right? What is something that you can continue to do? I brought up earlier, something that I do every single morning that's been helping me with my productivity is I'm 10 to 20% more productive because of 32 ounces of water in the morning. Okay, so let's move to something that we can start doing, right? So there's something that I came up with, and it's called the MED method: mission, environment, discipline, right? Discipline being the hardest one, right? But that to me makes up more than half the pie, close to 100%. If you have a mission, right? Not just a long-term mission, but a micro mission for the day, right? Being proactive is so important rather than being reactive, right? Are we controlling the day, or are we letting the day control us, right? So let's throw in that thinking time in which we're in those peak energy modes, like I talked about earlier with Josh Waitskins. So mission, environment. Maybe we should focus on the environment with this start side of the activity, right? What triggers around us are negative? Can we change those triggers, right? Rather than having wine around the house, can we set up water bottles? As ridiculous as that is. But as human beings, we see a trigger, we act, and we have the reward. And that reward is either short-term, like eating the cookie, that was good, or long-term, right? Maybe having the bottles of water and getting the night's sleep, and there's rewards on the back end of being productive down the road. So something that I would urge you to put down as your start is have more positive triggers in your environment. That could be people. That could definitely be people, right? Reaching out to a friend that maybe you lost touch on, but you know that they would be wind in your sails, right? That's a really good one for the start side of things, right? So now we have that continue and we have that start, but now let's answer the difficult question. The difficult one is, what can we stop doing? This can be really, really small. This could be really, really small. Something that I started doing was making sure I didn't let a blue light on my phone go all throughout the night. So I made it a point to turn it off before I went to bed, right? Turn it off. That's something, a small little stop that I've added that was a huge productivity factor on the back end, right? So constantly doing this audit of your energy level, right? Through mission, environment, discipline, or start, stop, continue, you will see yourself getting on the right path, coming back to that word momentum, right? As long as we have that mission. And something that you can do on the top of that start, stop, continue that's been really helpful for me as well is, what's your motto? What's your mantra? Especially during this tough time, right? And especially during this isolation, quarantine, right? Is there still ways that we can be proactive? So some things that come to mind that I've used in the past is, you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. You teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are. So Doc's always been about this with me. We've always tried to give out good knowledge and good information, but we also want to act it, right? Because we can't expect the students or the people that we talk to believe us unless we have that authenticity factor. So you teach what you know, but you reproduce who you are, right? So find your mantra, find your motto, right? And that'll be an anchor for you when the ship starts to get rocky. You want to pick it up right there, Doc?
Yeah. So Mark asked me this about 20 minutes ago. Let's get to it. This might be the big idea for you. We could debate this all day. I think the greatest athlete in the history of the world came from Plainfield, New Jersey. Imagine it's the summer before you're going to be in the 11th grade. So it's the first day of school in the 11th grade. And your name's Milt. And the kid next to you said, "Hey, Milt, what did you do over the summer?" And he said, "I was in Helsinki, Finland." And he said, "What were you doing in Finland?" He said, "I won a silver medal in the decathlon." Milt Campbell from Plainfield, New Jersey, won a silver medal before he was in the 11th grade. 4 years later, he's a student at Indiana University. He wins a gold medal in the decathlon. He played in the NFL. He played in the Canadian Football League. He's in the Swimming Hall of Fame. He is a black belt in judo. I could go on and on and on. He played with the Cleveland Browns. Later in life, I met Milt because he was a motivational speaker. And I said, what's your secret? So here, if Milt were here, if we just introduced Milt, here's what he would do with all of us. Milt would get up and say, how many of you have goals? And I'm sure every hand would go up. And it'd say, how many of you have ever written down your goals? And I'm sure most of the hands would go up. And then it'd say, how many of you have your written down goals with you right now? And invariably, oh, that's great, Mark. Invariably, no hands go up. He said early in his career, one of his coaches taught him this. Whatever your goals are, could you turn the card over, Milt? Milt, I said Milt.
Milt.
So Mark and I give out these cards, these Milt Campbell cards, and you write down your goals. Now, but what's the secret? The secret is to keep the cards with you, the card with you 24/7, 365. You sleep with it under your pillow. When you take a shower, you put it in a plastic bag. Is it? Of course it is. Is your coach a pain in the neck? Of course he or she is, but it's effective. So every year I speak to the incoming freshmen, incoming first-year students at Montclair State University, and I pass out cards to everybody. I said, number one, write down, I will graduate Montclair State University in May of 2020 with honors. I have them underlined with honors. Now, when we eventually have graduation this year at Montclair State, something's going to happen that happens every year. A couple of kids that are graduating will come up to me with dirty, filthy cards. Say, Dr. Gilbert, I graduated with honors. This works. This works. This works. If it helps somebody win a silver medal before the person was even the 11th grade. And what if it doesn't work? What do you have to lose? But you become what you think about most of the time. Watch Earl Nightingale on YouTube, The Strangest Secret. You become what you think about most of the time. Every time you put your hand in the pocket, you're reminded. Every time you're taking a shower, you're reminded. Every time you go to sleep, you have to take care of your card, you're reminded. What do you have to add to that, Mark?
Well, I just think the thing that keeps coming back to me is in my mind is it's so important that this journey that you're on is about you, right? Have those windows to your soul open inward rather than outward, right? If you want true joy, ask yourself the right questions, right? Have those windows to your soul open inward, not outward. If you start looking externally for the things that are going to bring you true joy, you're looking in the wrong place. By having these things, by being honest with yourself, right? The definition of honesty is conforming your words to the world. And then be integrous and have a lot of integrity, which is conforming the world to your words, right? And Milt Campbell's 3 questions of writing down your goals, keeping them with you, signing it, having your date down, right? Now you've made it public, right? Now you can even go as far as to tell your closest friends, right? Now you don't want to let others down, right? That's a really big thing. Doc brought up the Teammate of the Year award that I won for the Premier Lacrosse League. And one thing I made sure I talked about in the acceptance speech was that it's so important to set your goals with others in mind, right? So although we have these goals that are to better ourselves, who are you doing it for and why? Who are you doing it for and why? So if there's a staircase to greatness, I would say that first staircase, before you even step on it, you need to know why you're even stepping on that staircase, right? Be intentional by having goals and writing them down. And like Doc talked about, is life a talent game or is life a strategy game? It's a strategy game. So every step along the way to greatness, to the who that you want to be, to that outcome goal, to that North Star, has to do with how. So start with why. Every staircase is how. Go find that information because success leaves clues. There's somebody that's doing what you want to do already at a high level. Find their techniques, find their strategies, steal them, use them, and then give them to others. The 50-50 rule says 50% is uploading. And then when you're a teacher, you learn twice. So on the back end of that, getting to that 100% upload, go talk about it. Go talk about it. Something during the mental health month last month that Michael Phelps was talking about was the importance of getting vulnerable and talking about it. Right? And that doesn't mean you have to talk about your deepest, darkest secrets all the time. What it means is you have to talk about what you want, right? Doc Gilbert's always challenged me as a pro athlete, but also as a mental performance coach is write down, I want that, right? He says, Mark, are you a meaningful specific or a wandering generality? And in our war against average, it's all about being a meaningful specific. We're constantly told that we need to be well-rounded. And Doc Gilbert challenges me and says, no, Mark, be sharp-edged, right? Want something and really go after it. Know it how, know your why, figure out the how all along the way. And that's how you become the who that you want to be.
Mark, I'm totally flattered when any of your success, you acknowledge I have anything to do with it. I just want to go on record saying I have nothing to do with it. His father had everything to do with it. Tell me what your dad did with you every single morning.
Well, it was both my mother and my father. So
Yeah.
I would say a kindergartner was asked to spell the word love, and they spelled it T-I-M-E. And who's to say he's wrong, right? Because what we invest our time with, we love, right? And I give a lot to the nourishment. If I was a young flower, I give it a lot to my parents, right? My father woke me up early to play ball with me over all along the way. Everybody's heard about the 10,000 hour rule from Malcolm Gladwell. Well, I definitely started at a very young age, him shaking me up before he went off to work very early in the morning, 4, 5, 6 in the morning.
What time was it that he
4,
woke
5, 6 in the morning,
6
right? And then
Dad's playing ball with his kid. That takes.
and I think it's really important, right? Just that time, right? Dr. Nick Molinaro talks about these 4 stages, right? Intention, attention, decision-making, behavior, right? The decisions and the behavior that I had a lot to do at an early age from the intention and attention that I got from my parents. And my mom is one of the strongest people in the world, right? While I was going through my stress fracture in a 6 months, 24/7 hard brace, she was going through lymphoma. And she's fought and beat it. And now she's working with cancer survivors and cancer patients even to this day, inspiring through the word Shaktipad, right? Shaktipad, Shaktipad, is the exchange of energy. It's all about inspiration, not information, right? And what my parents have done and they continue to do is inspire me. They inspire me. And that's what I look for. I've called the clients that I work with and me, myself, a sailboat. And everybody has those anchors that keep them grounded, that tell them how it is. But they should search all along the way for wind. What wind can you add to your environment? What relationships could you go out and find, right? What mentors, like Dr. Molinaro, like Dr. Glicini Versari, like Dr. Gilbert are for me, like my parents. If you find those environments, right, the easiest way to enhance your life is to change your inner circle. The easiest way to change your life is to change your inner circle. Right, Robert Waldinger, the longest standing study done at Harvard, and he's the managing director of the study. Go to TED Talk and look up what makes a good life. Most people will take in the survey, talk about money, celebrity status, but what Robert Waldinger really talks about is one thing: the quality of our closest relationships. And something I always ask myself, is this within my control? That is. The quality of my closest relationship is certainly within my control. And thank you for the shout out there for my parents. If they're listening, I love you. And Dr. Gilbert, I would have to say you are an influence, right? But it is really important to understand that it's easier to be intentional, which gets your attention, decision-making behavior. It's easier to be intentional when you're surrounded by love and hope, right? And that's something that we can do right now, even though we've lost our everyday normal, our routine. Right? We're finding a new routine, right? Every single day now through isolations and quarantine. We're at that 2-month, 3-month stage of quarantine. Hopefully we're coming out of it, right? But we're finding that new routine. But I would also say on the back end of whatever schedule we come out with, just surround yourself with the right people. It's so important. It's so important. That Shaktipad word is so important. Thank you, Doc. That was really kind of you to say. And where I would end that little conversation or that little thread is I would say there's things along the way through the power of momentum that I've had the ability to change because I've had others in mind. Of course, there's action, and I train every day, both mentally, physically. I'm conscious and mindful of my spiritual and emotional self too, right? Emotionally resilient, emotionally agile. Those are things that I work on all the time. But I would say every single person, whatever word you want to call it, normal, standard, homeostasis, level, right? There are all these different homeostatic levels to life, right? And it's about you finding those little thresholds, whether they're with your friend groups, your relationships, you from a strength and conditioning and exercise perspective, you from breaking out of your comfort zone and reaching for information rather than affirmation. What a beautiful time right now to search for information rather than affirmation, right? Ben Ives, the man I brought up earlier, I have a beautiful podcast with him. I'll put it in the chat. But one thing he's always challenged me to be,
they're fabulous,
is be aspirational and be a ridgeline thinker. Be aspirational and be a ridgeline thinker. When you are setting these goals, they better send chills up your spine and make you uncomfortable when you talk about them. Right? They better do that, because then it's not worth it if it's not. It's not worth it if it's not. And I get really emotional talking about this because I am with Doc in the war against average. And I think if we can all find a way to remain aspirational and be a ridgeline thinker, then we can get going in the right direction together.
Could I just talk about school for a second?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because it looks like we have a lot of people that are high school, college, undergraduate, graduate. Let me tell you what I think is the key strategy for being successful in school. So I teach a class called the Freshman Seminar for First Year Students. And every week, the way I start the class, I say, does anybody have a problem? And it might be the first week, it might be the fifth week, but somebody says, oh, I'm taking this course and it's really difficult. And I say, oh, what's the class? And they say, oh, I'm taking physics, it's really difficult. Then I'll turn to the class, I say, how many of you have a difficult class this semester? And almost every hand goes up. I said, how many of you have a difficult professor this semester? Almost every hand goes up. I said, how many of you have a difficult major? Almost every hand goes up. How many of you think Montclair State University is a difficult school? Every hand goes up. Then I say, listen closely. This could change your college career. There are no difficult courses. There are no difficult professors. There are no difficult majors. There are no difficult universities. They are all time consuming. Physics isn't difficult. It's time consuming. Professor Smith isn't difficult. The person's time consuming. Electrical engineering isn't difficult. It's time consuming. Becoming a skilled professional cross player isn't difficult. It's time consuming. If you're willing to put in the time, then it won't be difficult. But most people confuse difficult with time consuming. Whether you're talking about physical skills or mental skills, it's all possible. And how much time do you put in? WIT, whatever it takes. It might take Mark half as much time as me. You know, he could learn the stuff in 5 hours. It might take me 10 or 15. It doesn't matter once you master the skill. So what we're trying to sell you on is you have the ability. You might be blocking it. You have the ability, and all you are lacking is the strategy. And all the strategies are out there. The strategies are everywhere. But as we did beginning to look for red, look for red, look for red, look for red, and you don't see the green, most people aren't looking for strategies. They're looking for acknowledgement of their talent. You have the talent. Nobody has to tell you you're smart. You are smart. Nobody has to tell you you're athletic. You are athletic. And if one person says you're not athletic, that doesn't mean you're not. It means that person's uninformed. That's it for me.
Really well said. And what I would say is, because we're wrapping up here, is when people ask me, I wrote my podcast in there, Grateful and Full of Greatness. When people ask me what is it that I think greatness is all about, and that's really difficult, but I always talk about how having an expected end leads to average work. So if you're an athlete and it's going from third quarter to fourth quarter, and you start doing math and you're saying we're up to, I really just want the game to end right now. What's going to happen is you become risk averse rather than risk taking, and the other team or opponent are going to come back. Now step outside of sport or the arena, right? If you live your life as if you're just getting started, you're a student, you're insatiable, curious, and you always embrace the journey as the destination unconditionally, you're going to be full of joy. And I want to bring up one more article because this is really, really powerful during this time, right? It's all about competing with yesterday's me. There's an article called The Zen of Weightlifting. The Zen of Weightlifting. It's a New York Times article, and it's not necessarily all about weightlifting. If you read it, it talks about nourishment of the soul. And when we lose things as a means to an end, as we've done right now during this pandemic, there's no games, there's no work schedule, students are out of school, we're losing our means to an end. right? Everything's different. But what the Zen of weightlifting did is it brings out 3 points. You can take on an endeavor for 3 reasons. Autonomy, right? Like go to the woods. It's a chance for you to find your breath and become mindful of who you are and where you want to be, right? Increase your awareness through autonomy. Second is mastery, right? A lot of it is going from a conscious competent state to an unconscious competent state, right? Not just thinking and then acting, but unconscious competence is it just happens, right? Nike, just do it, right? And then the third and final thing is belonging, right? And we don't need to be physically in the same proximal area as each other to be part of an army, to be belonging in an army that's choosing an endeavor just for the sake of doing it, for embracing the journey as a destination unconditionally. Doc, do you want to wrap up with that book?
Well, we're trying to sell this book. How did I get James Nestor to come to my class? I asked him. I didn't know him. I emailed him. The book came out last week. He's on a virtual book tour. He has like 30 interviews in a week, and he agreed. So here's the last strategy I want to leave you with. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If you want to go to graduate school someplace and you're not going to apply because you don't think you can get in, let the graduate school reject you. Don't reject yourself. Last thing I want to say, the next session, Dr. Nick Molinaro, I heard it last week. I don't know if he's fabulous, fabulous, fabulous. Do not miss Dr. Nick Molinaro. Here's the book. Thank you, Mark. You were fabulous too.
No, you're great. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions? I'm about to jump into Dr. Molinaro's. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much. My podcast is grateful and full of greatness. My email is markglicini@gmail.com. My website is markglicini.com. Thank you so much, everyone. Doc, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Probably in about an hour and a half. Thank you, everyone.
Somebody wrote, according to Josh Waitskin, people typically are on top of their personal peak energy states.
I wrote that, yeah. He talks about if you want the structure of your day, how to structure your day as a peak performer. It's a 4-minute and 21-second video with Tim Ferriss, if you want to look it up on YouTube. But there's 3 big takeaways. Be proactive rather than reactive, like I talked about before. Know your peak energy states and use them as times of thinking rather than putting out fires, right? So most people, I included, and before I even learned it from Josh Waitskins, would make their day around major meetings, right? Rather than peak energy times of thought, right? And peak performance to me is all about short bouts of intensity, right? Not draining your energy throughout the day. And the third thing he talks about in the structure of a day is go to bed thinking about the most important question to you. Wake up brainstorming about it. And I love the metaphor he uses. It unlocks between conscious and consciousness, unconsciousness and consciousness, and you find the answer. All right. So be proactive, revolve around your thinking time, and what do you say? And go to bed strong with the right question.
You know who's been to the session? Sheila Taylor.
Awesome. I got to jump.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.